again. Well, today I woke up and, of course, have you ever started reading something and then it sits in your mind all night and you can't get rid of it? Well, that's what happens when you start reading the Elders book. So the Elders book, it opened my eyes up to to a lot of things. But when dealing with the blood issue, it really helped me to see the religion from a different angle. The religion is not about just believing in Jesus or believing in Jehovah. This religion is about believing in this blood doctrine. If you do not believe in the blood doctrine, you cannot be a Jehovah's Witness. It's study 29. We covered that on video 2. Of this. And you cannot be one. I didn't realize that, how strong they were with this blood doctrine. And we talked about this before. It wasn't something that came in at the beginning. This happened midterm with President Knorr. He was very much into reaching out and going to questionable things like the Greber Bible, spiritistic things. President Knorr, it's well known, well documented. But the religion took a turn there and then adopted this blood doctrine into their religion, and it became the religion. They became fixated on this blood, fixated to the point of getting into the doctor's business, setting up a medical liaison staff, HLC. And they become invested into people's lives. We're going to go into the Elders book here some more. And we're not done uncovering this blood doctrine, the depths of it. And now I'm looking at children, how they're deciding for children. And not only deciding, but they're coercing and instructing the parents on how to basically sacrifice your child. Let's say the child's born with some disease, needs an immediate transfusion to keep that child living and give it some form of chance to live and have life. They're instructing the parents to get in the way of that, to tell the doctors no blood. That's their stand. Their child dies. So this is what's happening. It's a serious business. Now, I thought of it from, could Jehovah's Witnesses, I did some research on this. I'll show you my research. So I type in, could Jehovah's Witnesses be aiding and abetting in suicide? And I think everyone is saying yes. Yes, they're saying yes to this. I'm looking at, in Canada, the criminal code in Canada says here that, I'll see if you guys can see that. It says everyone is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term of not more than 14 years, whether suicide ensues or not. Everyone guilty. Now here's what it is. A, counsels a person to die by suicide, or abets a person in dying by suicide, or aids a person to die by suicide. You see, a baby, a toddler, can't even talk. And here this organization is encouraging the doctor, getting in the way of the doctor's order to do the best they can to save lives. So the criminal code it has an exemption for medical assistance in dying. So only a doctor. So does that mean Jehovah's Witnesses are going to have a bunch of doctors and medical? You see, that's not the way it works. When you're on the side of a highway and there's an accident, and you're all hauled into ER. They're looking at blood cards, and you're getting whatever doctor is there that can save your life. So this becomes a serious matter. In fact, I was doing a little bit more research. This is a paper. It's Oxford. Just want to get so you guys can see this. It's from the Oxford Academic, and I'll blow it up here so we can read it together here. Okay, we got it up on the screen here, so we'll look at this together. This is the abstract they put together. They said this chapter examines the law in relation to assisted suicide and the circumstances in which a doctor may be subject to criminal liability for this offense. It considers relevant analogies between the legal response to active and passive euthanasia on one hand and assisted suicide on the other. Historically, at a common law level, a person who has committed suicide is regarded as self-murderer. And consequently, anyone who has instigated, now here's the point, folks, consequently, anyone who has instigated or aided another to commit suicide is guilty of murder as an accomplice. And that's kind of the point that I was looking at there. It's the Watchtowers really, that's what they're doing. They're aiding and instigating people to sacrifice their child. I don't know how else to put this. It's crazy that we're even talking about this in 2023 in the time that we live. You know, it's crazy that this is still a discussion in these countries. It says in England, the Suicide Act of 1961, blah, 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 new offense, aiding and abetting and counseling. So, yeah, so they have a law in England, 1961, that it's an offense for aiding, abetting, counseling, or procuring the suicide of another. That's the way I see this. If there's a medical treatment that can save lives, why is Watchtower procuring, putting all these websites together, all this training, all these videos, all this indoctrination to get all their members to sign these blood cards? And these members sign these blood cards and they don't want to sign them. I was a member for 30 years. I did not want to sign one. And it's pressure. It's pressure from all the people in the Kingdom Hall. Now, what else do we have on this? Now, the next article is huge. This is in Japan. This is we've been running this news. I'm going to run this as a separate article. And in Japan, Japan's a very forward, intellectual forward country. And they're forward in their thinking and how they're doing things. So the whole world really looks at Japan seriously. And here's what's going on in Japan right now. Lawyers release a survey on alleged Jehovah's Witness child abuse. I'm going to cover that whole article, but we're just going to look at a piece of this right now.
A team of lawyers has released the results of its survey on alleged child abuse.
Okay, I just rewinded it. Here it is.
A team of lawyers has released the results of its survey on alleged child abuse by members of the Jehovah's Witnesses religious group in Japan. The team provides legal support to former members of the group and children of members. The lawyers conducted the survey after publication of Health and Welfare Ministry guidelines last year about child abuse related to parents' religious beliefs. A total of 560 people responded. 81% of the respondents said they had cards indicating refusal of blood transfusions. The guidelines say parents' refusal of medical treatment for children on religious grounds amounts to neglect, a form of abuse. Over 90% of the respondents reported being whipped, banned from school activities, and forced to limit their human relations.
Okay, so that's what we'll cover for now. But you notice these guys are going hard after it. A team of lawyers, they're going after the Jehovah's Witnesses for neglect, abuse, the whole works, Japan. So we'll be watching this closely. What we're going to do next is get right into the Elders book, and we're going to see how this indoctrination, this child abuse has taken place right from the elders. And it's a secret elders book, so not everyone has this information. And in that elders book, it is the elders are instructed to get those children, those infants, to get the parents to get these cards signed as guardianships. And they're even getting lawyers, certain lawyers of theirs together. They built all kinds of documents. We're going to get into that in a few seconds. Okay, we're at the Elders book here, and we're gonna. What I did is I just plugged in child up here in the cursor, And it pulls it up 137 times. So we just go down and look at what they talk about child. So they talk about contacting a circuit overseer here. Get that up. Needs a handle involving a child, sexual assault. So they've changed that. That's something that they're doing. Now, children living at home. Let's look at this. This is considering scriptural qualifications for brothers. So appointment, deletion of elders and ministerial servants. So all brothers want to be work their way up the ladder. It's just that's the only badge of honor you can get. It's kind of like being in the Boy Scouts. As you get to different levels, you get a different badge or a different pin. Well, that's how it is in the religion. You start out studying, you get a badge. You go out in the field ministry, you get a badge of honor. You comment, there's a badge of honor. You work your way up and you get privileges, badge of honor. You become a ministerial servant, big badge of honor. You become any kind of a pioneer, big badge of honor. Elder, big badge of honor. You see, it's all about, you don't get anything, but it's just badges of honor. So that's all people are really striving for, I'm thinking. You let me know in the comments if you can think of any other reasons. Is it to help people? No, these are badges of honor. Just think about it. But anyways, children living at home, the organization, and I know this from experience, they go hard on brothers, on their families, brothers that are reaching out. So here's what it is. Natural ability does not disqualify a brother for appointment. They go on to scrutinize people. And here it is, his family. So is he a student of the Bible? Does he endeavor to help his family spiritually, regularly studying with his wife and his children living at home? And does he manifest fruitage of the Spirit in his daily life? So they really look at the Bible, the home Bible study, and they ask, this first thing they ask, are you conducting a home Bible study? As if a Jehovah's Witness doesn't have enough to do already, going to all those darn meetings and going out in the field ministry all the time. And now you want us to take up a whole evening and do home Bible study. It's just crazy. When does it stop? It doesn't stop, right? So it says, though it is the brother who must measure up to the scriptural qualifications, there's nowhere in the Bible that it says that you got to do all these meetings, go out all this service, and do all these home Bible studies. There's nowhere that it says that. It says just bring your kids up in a good way. So now it goes on to say, if this brother's going to measure up to scriptural qualifications, you should also consider the spirituality of those in his household. If his wife is baptized, is she a good example? Well, of course, I could never get that. If your spouse isn't really into it, and they kind of don't go out and service a whole lot, maybe they go out once a month, you're held back as a brother. You're held to that standard of your wife. And maybe they don't even look at depression, medical reasons, why, not everyone is disposed. If a person's depressed from being in the organization is really what it's about. And they don't want people to go and see counselors and get help. They feel field service is what it's all about. That's how this organization works. Okay, so a brother must measure up. Is he making family worship a priority? You see where I'm at reading there? And are his minor children well behaved and believing? You see, folks, believing means it's just when you're raising your children, automatically from birth, they know that blood transfusions are evil. Blood transfusions are dirty. We train our children that way, and there's all kinds of study lessons. And if you watch some of the other videos that I've done, JW.org has pushed this into the century that we're living. It's all on video broadcasting, and they get to hide a lot of their propaganda, a lot of their lies through their videos. That's how they indoctrinate. So what does the conduct of any adult children living in the home reveal? So they really go after the brothers over their children. Children grow up. Children fall down and scrape their knee. children get girlfriends at school that might not be Jehovah's Witnesses. That's what's going to happen. So they really go hard on the brothers. So let's go to the next one. Children, well-behaved children living at home, they don't measure up. They hold the brother accountable. And measuring up, they have such high standards, but anyways, that's a whole nother discussion. Now, when a circuit overseer decides to appoint a brother, the circuit overseer and another elder will meet with the brother. And it goes on here, point 3, have you as an adult ever been involved at any time in the past with child sex abuse? So they asked, and if the brother answers no to the question, the circuit overseer will provide the elders with a signed appointment. So that's all it is, folks. So let's say you're a sex offender. You're in the congregation. You work your way up. If you don't have a family, it's really easy to become an elder really quick without a family. You see, as a brother with a family, you're held responsible, as we just seen, by each one of your family members. If you have a spouse that suffers depression, suffers something medical, and they need some help medically, and they're not going to be ministers out there every day. They might get out once a month if the month is good. Well, I know what that's like. But you are held accountable as a brother. You are held. You might as well only do an hour a month. Now that I know this, I was wasting my time. And in fact, I had a circuit overseer sit down with me with an elder long ago, and he told me, you're wasting your time. What are you doing out in the ministry? Like, I had a depressed wife, suffered depression. Lots of people suffer depression. They weren't encouraging you to go on medication back then. So you just kind of wait it out. You just kind of work with it. And I wanted to be out in the ministry. So I would just go. And they sat down with me and counseled me over dinner. Why am I wasting my time? That's how this organization works. If I would have known that back then, I wouldn't have wasted all my time. I would have went and did something else probably a lot quicker. But anyways, just so you guys know, that's how it works. You are judged to the lowest hour of any member of your household. Now, if you're single, you're a brother, or you get into this organization, and let's say you're a pedophile, you're single, they recruit people in prisons. They send brothers in prisons to recruit people. They come out of prison. They might not say anything. You might not know their record. You can't ask. You don't have to divulge medical records and stuff like that. But anyways, if they do know, they have a way of dealing with it. If they don't know, all they do is this: ask a question. Have you, as an adult, ever been involved at any time in the past with child sex abuse? That's it. That's their interrogation. They don't, you see, the police, if you're really putting people in a counseling situation, putting adults with children, and that's what this organization does, all the time out in the ministry, you're working with children. People drop their children off at the service arrangement, and you're a brother there, you're a ministerial servant, you're going to take those children out in the field ministry. Usually not toddlers. Usually these are kids that are 12, 11, 12, kind of a thing. So that happens all the time. And could you imagine they have a pedophile that comes in and all he has to say is no, like just lie, and now he's a servant, real quick. So yeah, that let's just go on a little further. So situations that require a review of an appointed brother's qualifications. Members of his households get involved in serious wrongdoing. Right here in capital letters, guys. You see that? If a brother's wife or child, including an adult child living at home, is involved in a serious wrongdoing, the body of elders should seek to determine whether the brother was negligent. So they hold the brother negligent. I become held negligent for what my kids do at school, what my wife was doing. It's ridiculous. This is how it works with this organization. Okay, we're talking about children here. So does he continue to have the respect and confidence of the congregation as an exemplary family head if one of his children was guilty of serious wrongdoing? Are the other children doing well spiritually? If the brother has done all that can be reasonably expected, and especially if he has has spiritual success with others in his household, rejection of his fine direction would not necessarily disqualify him. So they really look at your whole family, your children, your wife if you're a brother. And then they go on here. Similar questions should be considered when an adult children living at home is disfellowshipped or disassociated and allowed to remain in the house. You see what this is doing, folks? If your child is having trouble, and we're going to see here in the Elders book, they encourage children to get baptized quite quickly. And but if the child makes a mistake at school and gets disfellowshipped, usually it's sexual related. All of it. This whole Elders book is about sexual misconduct, and the Bible talks about that. But what the Bible does not talk about is you cannot be there's nothing in the Bible that says you should be disfellowshipped for not taking for eating blood. Let's say eating blood. Because back then they didn't have transfusions. So let's say an animal that's strangled, the sacrificial animal, or whatever. We showed you in 1 Corinthians 10 and 25 that Paul said it's a matter of conscience. When you go into the meat market, you don't have to ask. You can buy whatever. You can buy animals that were used for sacrifice. That's what it says in the Jehovah's Witness Bible. We covered that on our last video. And all the scriptural reasons why, to debunk all of this blood issue. It's not hard. So their scriptural basis for this blood comes out of where? Where does it come from? The Jehovah's Witnesses did not believe in this blood doctrine when it started, when Russell ran it, when Rutherford ran it. But when President Knorr came in, they grabbed a hold of it, then he made it law and gave it over to a governing body, and they made it law ever since. And now they've modernized it, and they're really pushing hard, and they feel that they're medical people. This religion, it looks like, figures it's some kind of a medical hero that's going to revolutionize this bloodless surgery all over the world. That's what it looks like from the inside looking at this religion. And I'm not saying that it's not helping bloodless surgery, but come on, folks. Are we going to sacrifice our children when that's the only thing that's going to save them at that moment for the 9 members of the governing body? Because Jesus doesn't ask it of any of us. And so we know that this is certainly a cult. It's following men. And look at all the rules that we're going through in this book. So similar questions should be considered when an adult child living at home is disfellowshipped. You see, disfellowshipped or disassociated and allowed. You see this here? And allowed to remain in the home. I was questioned about my kid. Why are you allowing them to remain in your home? They asked me that. I didn't know it was in their elder's book. I thought it was pretty ballsy of the elder. I thought, what a ballsy elder to ask me that. And here it's in this book. This is inculcated down from the cult leaders, the 9 members, the governing body. This is how they train all their elders. So now I know. They want to push, they want the brothers, if you're reaching out to be a ministerial servant, push your kids out. If you can push your kids out of home and they're not living up to the rules, push them out. That's what this tells me. So let's go on. Supports marriage of baptized. So I'm going to go on in the children. We're looking at children. There's a lot of children. Situations that require a review of an appointed brother's qualification. If a brother's, here it is, right out clear for us. If a brother's wife or child, including an adult child living in his home, is involved in a serious wrongdoing, the body should seek to determine whether the brother was negligent. Was he permissive? Was he alert to provide needed direction, anticipating potential problems? Was he regularly conducting family worship? Was he giving his family needed time and attention? When he became aware of the serious wrongdoing, did he promptly inform the body of elders so that they could properly investigate the matters? And did he shield his family from discipline or try to manipulate the elders' handling of the situation? And does he continue to have the respect and confidence of the congregation as an exemplary family head? if one of his children was guilty of a serious wrongdoing. Are the other children doing well spiritually? And if the brother has done all that can be reasonably expected, blah, blah, blah. So you see the pressure put on the elders. This is the elders' book. So they take this and they put that pressure on. That's how they shepherd the flock. It's with a whip. This is a whip. Yeah, it's a whip. I was whipped. Now I know why. I thought it was just bad elders. I honestly thought I'm in a congregation of a bunch of bad elders, and they were using the whip to the letter of the law. That's what I'm learning here, and that's why I'm saying when I go through this stuff, it blows my mind. Okay, we're going to carry on with children. Children living at home disfellowshipped or disassociated allowed here again to remain in the house. We covered that. If a sin occurred before he was appointed, moreover the nature. I'm just skimming through this. I'm seeing that the past child sex abuse, which means that he would not qualify for many years, if ever. So even in the New Elders book, this is the brand new Elders book. They're still qualifying you. There's a possibility that you can qualify for an elder again if you've committed CSA. It's in the Elders book. They could have been very clear. They could have said, which means that he would not qualify ever. Period. Right? Why? These. You see, the pedophiles within the Jehovah's Witness religion, and could be someone they recruit out of prison. Who knows? The Jehovah's Witnesses are going all over trying to recruit people. And they come in and they don't have high standards of like what the police have to tell if a person is guilty of previous abuse. They don't have that. They study with people. They come in, and because of that two-witness rule in the old Elders book, CSA was squeaking by all the time. This became a haven, this organization, for this problem, and that's come out in the last few years, and we see in Japan, it's coming out, second generation. So they're still allowing them to qualify. They say they throw that if ever in there. Why not just take that out? Because they do not rehabilitate their members through the proper procedures. They don't. The police should be contacted. If previous or child sex abuse. They should be rehabilitated by the system. The organization does not have rehabilitation for these things. Going out in the field ministry is their rehabilitation. Family worship, sitting down with kids, having a family worship. A lot of these single brothers will go and sit in with other families during family worship because they're single brothers. And if they're pedophiles, it makes sense. So now that we're outside, we start looking in, we see all these holes in this religion when it comes to child abuse. Situations that may require a review of a brother's qualification. This is one I think we need to really talk about this one. This is a serious one. Think of Japan, Here we have, you're raising your family. And I put an education fund aside for my kids. I didn't realize that this was wrong in the Elders book, not until recently. And that leaked video that came out of Warwick that we've seen on how they're training the body of elders on brothers that are allowing their kids to take higher education. They're really against it. And that, to me, that's a form of child abuse. Here it is. An appointed brother, situations that may require a review of an appointed brother's qualifications. It says he or a member of his household pursues higher education. Can you imagine? If an appointed brother, his wife, or his children pursue higher education, does his life pattern show that he puts kingdom interests first in his life? Does he teach his family members to put kingdom interests first? Does he respect what he has been published by the faithful slave? You see, this is the ruler's This is the they idolize the faithful slave right here. And it's right here in their elders book. Does he respect what the faithful slave says? So it's respecting those men. So if I ask my son, do you respect those men? He would say, what men? My kids didn't even know these faithful slave guys. So, but today they're movie stars. Everyone knows them. And everyone listens to them. They become spellbound by these speakers. They get up and they just hypnotically talk. And they play that hypnotic music. That's the faithful slave. So here it is. Does he respect what has been published by the faithful slave on the dangers of higher education? Can you believe that? On the dangers of higher education. The dangers of higher. The Bible says, and we ran videos on this, it says in so many places. In fact, let's just go there just for a second. Okay, here's one I like. I don't know if you can see it there, but it's Ecclesiastes 7 and 12. And Jehovah's Witnesses use this on money because they feel that money is important. So they say, for the protection of wisdom is like the protection of money. And then they stop there. But here's what the scripture says. It says, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it. Well, how do you get knowledge? Education, That's how you get knowledge. Proverbs, let's go down a little bit here. You get going. There's a lot of scriptures that come up, and I just plugged in education. Proverbs 16 and 16, how much better to get wisdom than gold? You see, education in the Bible is more important than gold. That's what it's saying, this proverb. So, it's to get understanding is to be chosen rather than silver. So, I don't know, that's telling me that we should be educating, right? Deuteronomy says you shall teach them to your children. Talking of them while you're sitting in your house and when you're walking by the way and when you lie down and when you rise, telling us to educate our children. So what do? We put together an education fund. And for my children, I just allowed them to choose what they wanted to choose when they got out of school. My son chose to be an electrician. And so he used the education fund to be an electrician. My daughter chose to be a hairdresser, and she chose to use it to do that. So every child, they make their choices. I know one young man in the congregation that he wanted to go to university and be an engineer, and he received a lot of problems. So that was a little curve. Education, that's in my mind, if you're not allowing your child to pursue that or have that option, you're going against the Bible. There's no scriptural reasons in this whole elders book under this education. There's not one scripture. All it says is, does he respect the faithful slave? That's cult. Do you respect the cult leaders? Like, if we're going to be real serious about this, there's no scripture. I plug education, and I could have read scriptures for an hour there on how the Bible supports education. So now let's go down to the next one. It's situations. We covered that under education. Now we're into newly baptized members. Now this is medical matters. You see that? And we covered some of this on our last couple of videos. Now newly baptized members, and we go down here, a publisher with a minor child, a publisher. So you don't have, this is not an elder, this is not a ministerial servant, this is not a pioneer, this is just a publisher out there. Someone that just started coming, they're publishing. They might not even be baptized. You can publish. It means that you're out in the ministry and you're not baptized. So you can be a publisher, and now you're not even baptized. You're just a publisher. Now they're after your child. Here's what they're saying. A publisher with a minor child should be provided with an identity card, IC, as well. So it says the secretary should encourage the brother to review prayerfully lesson 39. And we covered this on our last video, lesson 39. But we're going to get this identity card. We're going to go get that right now and see what that looks like. Okay, so the blood cards you got to normally get from the congregation secretary or elders. You can't really get them online, although there's printable ones online. They want you to get them in-house. So here's the best way of describing it for you really quick. Watchtower No Blood card. This is kind of what they look like over in the corner here. You put them in your wallet. They fold up. They're like a power of attorney kind of a thing. Here's kind of an old one, I think, as no blood transfusion. As a God-fearing Christian and a believer of Jehovah's Witness word, the Bible, I hereby demand that blood in any way, shape, or form is not be fed into my body. However, blood substitutes may be used in cases of extreme loss of blood. That's what they're saying. So here's another one, advanced medical directive. This is like the newer one. It's an advanced medical direction, and they get it all signed and witnessed. Now, here's one for parents, and I'm going to see if I can zoom into this. We're talking about children. Let me see if I can pull that over. Okay, so for your children, here's what they do. So you see the line there? You'd write your children's name in there. And this says, as parents, we are deeply interested in the welfare of our child. They put the child's name in there. We are Jehovah's Witnesses and hold strong religious convictions. Hence, we do not accept blood transfusions. It is widely known that the allogenic transfusions carry risks of hepatitis, HIV, and other health hazards. Our informed decision is to avoid these risks. We do not accept non-blood expanders and pharmaceuticals that control hemorrhage and stimulate the production of red blood cells. We do not accept non-blood expanders and pharmaceuticals that control hemorrhage and stimulate the production of red blood cells. They don't accept that. If our child suffers from an accident or becomes seriously ill, please contact us immediately. But what if they're suffering from a hemorrhage and they're going to be dead in 2 minutes? This is a problem. We know physicians who respect our religious convictions, and we're available for consultation on the use of modern, acceptable, non-blood alternatives. So this is what they're doing with children. They sign it. They get 2 signatures. They call this an IC right here. This is an old one. And that's kind of what they're doing for the children. Okay, so we're going to scroll down here a bit. Back like this. Now this is kind of interesting. New provisions to assist us to abstain from blood. Now it starts out, the governing body has approved, and that's the 9 men in New York. They've approved of combining the essential elements of the Durable Power of Attorney DPA document and the Advanced Medical Directive Release Card into a single legal document, which we shall refer to generally as a DPA card. A DPA card has been prepared for each state, and the actual title of the DPA card varies from state to state. So I'm not going to read all of that, but that throws a culpability of this blood doctrine onto the governing body. And they're the ones that are making all these people spellbound by something that's not promoted by the Bible. It's not promoted by Jesus, blood sacrifice. It's not promoted in the scriptures. So this is something that's promoted by Jehovah's Witnesses because of the governing body. They're the ones that are the culprits here. Okay, this is kind of showing some of the Watchtower sites that are inculcating to their members about blood. And here's a service meeting schedule. This is when I was in, every year there was a service meeting schedule on blood every year. And here's what it said every year. Family heads should be sure that each baptized child is carrying a DPA card and that each unbaptized child is carrying an identity card. So we looked at that, and the DPA cards, we looked at those on our last video, but they're just the little blood cards, power of attorney. We looked at it a bit. So they're inculcating into the family heads to make sure that their children, their unbaptized children, are carrying these blood cards. And this instruction is coming right from the top. Not from God, but from the top of this organization. Okay, we're back at the Elders book. And we covered the identity card as well. So this is what they want the publishers with minor children to provide and get them into the blood doctrine. What's next? Elders should ensure that any parents with minor child are provided with an identity card and are familiar with the points contained in how parents can protect their children from the misuse of blood. And we're going to look at that right now, that S55. Okay, so how parents can protect their children from misuse of blood. Elders should be alert to review these points with parents whose preteens and adolescent children are facing a medical problem. So this is what they do. They get hit hard when they're facing any medical problems. So protect children spiritually and medically. Firm conviction is vital. Parents must be firmly resolved to abstain from blood by refusing it for their children. This is a lot of musts and shoulds. Here's another one. Parents should, I think, what I think of the should word? It's like shitting on you. Should. Parents should also, this is the governing body shitting on its members. Shitting on them. They're shoulding. Should do this, should do this, should do that. Think of it as shitting on them. And that's what they're doing. Parents should also help their children develop their own conviction and defend their faith. This is important because some physicians may agree to treat minors who have demonstrated sufficient maturity to make their own medical choices, and some courts have upheld the rights of such minors to do so. And this is because of all the brainwashing. That's all this is. It's just continue. It's beat into the parents. If you're not getting your children to sign these cards, you cannot get a badge of honor and become have special privileges in the congregation. You can never be a ministerial servant, an elder, if you're reaching out. And that's what the organization is all about, reaching out to maturity, something like that. Anyways, we're going to carry on here back to the Elders book. Okay, so yes, so you get those forms. And expectant mothers, there's another form. For unborn childs, let's say they have to do a C-section. That's where blood transfusions are necessary. So they have another form. And then for the elderly, so you talk about picking on the weak, the children, the mothers, the elderly. It's a very scary situation for a mother who is pregnant in this religion. Very, very scary. Elderly. They get after the elderly, should remind elderly of the importance of having completed these cards. Admission to the hospital, when the elders learn of this, they get right involved. So let's go on with the children. That's what we're kind of looking at here. Child, next. Elders should encourage to seek assistance. Okay, they talk about these cards again. These durable power of attorney, these healthcare cards. What section is this under? Hospital liaison. So again, they're talking about their children and making sure they sign these cards. So determine whether a judicial committee should be formed. Child abuse, that's one section they covered. We covered some of that. Children who may have been abandoned by a guilty mate. They get into that. Child abuse. Child abuse may include neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse, or emotional abuse of a minor. Child sexual abuse occurs when an adult uses. We all know all of those things, except, you see, they spell it all out, but yet they're doing child abuse. If your child doesn't take a medical treatment, he could die. That's child abuse, neglect. But yet this is how they twist things. Gross uncleanness with greediness. Now we're looking for children's stuff. We're going to keep going. Child abuse. They talk about all that. Refusal to provide for children. They talk about that. Child sex abuse. So we'll see where we go next. Okay, the next one is about unbaptized publishers and if they're a child. Now, an unbaptized publisher means that you start studying with the organization and you want to go out in the field ministry. You want to go out door to door with everyone, because that's what everyone does. And if you want to visit with people, you have to go door to door, and you get to visit with people. So here it is. If you're an unbaptized publisher, but if you're a minor, even if you're not a minor, 2 elders should meet with the witness parents to discern what has occurred, the child's attitude, and the corrective steps. So even if you're an unbaptized publisher and you're a minor, and there's a wrongdoing or something goes on, you don't meet up to the standards, right away 2 elders are going to be there meeting with you. And what will happen is they will revoke your unbaptized publisher. You won't be allowed to go out in the ministry again until you correct it. So that's what they do. Okay, so this next one is, let's say someone decides to leave the organization. Let's say the man leaves the organization, wakes up, leaves. And now they get into the legal part of wanting to help the children stay with the Jehovah's Witness. So they get right into the children when it comes to child custody, because they want the Jehovah's Witness member to maintain child custody. So they're showing how to do it. And they're saying in some lands, it is possible for the innocent mate, the Jehovah's Witness, to sign legal documents that stipulate custody of the children and financial support without indicating he agrees with the divorce. His signing such papers in itself would not indicate a rejection. So they get right into it with divorces and everything when it comes to children. Okay, I wanted to cover this portion. This is under the child abuse portion, CSA. And they're saying up here where I'm at, scriptures place a responsibility on the parents for teaching and protecting their children. As spiritual shepherds, elders can help parents to shoulder their responsibilities. So they're throwing this all on the parents. Legal consideration. Now, they're not saying that they have to, they can bounce around this very lightly, but they're saying legal considerations. So child abuse is a crime. In some jurisdictions, individuals who learn of allegations of child abuse may be obligated by law to report the allegation to the secular authorities. So they're not saying to report this stuff. They're agreeing that it's a crime, and they're saying that in some jurisdictions, if you learn about it, you may be obligated to report it. They're not going to tell parents, chase them down and say, have you reported it yet? Have you reported it yet? You better get down to the police and report it. They're not going to even do that. They're going to say, well, legal considerations, they're going to, it's how you present this stuff. And this is how the elders book is showing it. So it's giving those elders leeway to be iffy about this. And it says, to ensure that elders comply with child abuse reporting laws, 2 elders should immediately call the legal department for legal advice when the elders learn of an accusation of child abuse. So that's all they have to do. They don't have to call the police. They call the Watchtower branch. That's what they do. A call should be made even when both persons involved are minors. And it goes on to talk about it from there. The legal department here, it says, will advise based on the facts and the applicable law. So they're all basing this on law. See, this is why on this side of the fence, we say that this organization harbors crimes. Because it's a crime, we agree, should be reported to the law. If someone breaks into a Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall, that's break and enter. That's a crime. What do? They call up the police right away. They call the police and they report it. But if someone sexually abuses a young minor in that Kingdom Hall and they recognize it's a crime, they call the legal department. And now they're saying that only if the law requires them, and all Jehovah's Witnesses are worldwide. So in all the main countries in the world, we're all clamping down on this, and we're making it so they have to report. But there's a lot of countries all over the world that may not have those same standards. And this is where this religion, with their rules, it's very wishy-washy. So now, if an individual who is accused of child abuse is associated with your congregation, two elders calling should provide the legal department with the individual's full name and everything else. So they leave it all up to the legal department. Okay, I think this will be one of the last points. Congregation considerations. When discussing child sexual abuse from a congregational standpoint, we are not considering a situation in which a minor who is a willing participant and who is approaching adulthood. So they're saying that if they're not considering all situations with minors, situations. The law may say something different, but here in the Elders book, this is what they're saying. They're making their own rules up, people. And this is why this is a dangerous book, because the elders will follow this book. And a lot of this stuff won't get reported because that's what this book says, not to report it. It's not even a situation. So let's say the minor is 15, 16 or something like that. They might not consider it a problem. But yet minors, the law considers this a crime. So this is where this book is very, very shady. Here's another one of the most, I think this is just a cruel way of handling things. How they provide spiritual assistance to victims, right here. Two elders in point 13 should always be involved when shepherding an adult sister who is a victim of child abuse. Why are they not bringing a woman counselor in? Why always they send in two elders? Here she is abused by a male, and they send two males in to question her, and they ask too many details. That's another problem with this whole shepherding book. Now, for those of you that are in the organization, and I've said many times, this organization doesn't care about victims. Here's proof of it, number 16. It says, the time that elders can spend shepherding an individual in the congregation who is a victim of child abuse is limited. So they must balance this important responsibility with their other responsibilities, which include caring for the spiritual, emotional, and material needs of their own families. And in some cases, a victim of child abuse may seek more spiritual support from elders than they can reasonably give. In such cases, some elders have found it beneficial to set limits on the time for such shepherding, and it may take several visits to assist a victim effectively. And when circumstances limit the extent of the assistance the elders can provide on a particular occasion, elders should still seek to share words of encouragement, assuring the victim of Jehovah's love, reading an appropriate scripture, offering a prayer, and this will confirm the elder's interest and willingness to help the extent possible. So, crazy. They don't give help. There's no help here. Most of these victims need hours and hours of therapy done by a professional, done by a woman, in a lot of cases, a woman counselor. And this is how this organization shepherds victims. In addition to spiritual shepherding provided by the elders, the victim or her family may desire other assistance. For example, an adult sister who has suffered abuse as a child may choose to approach an empathetic sister for emotional support and encouragement. Or if an adult sister is agreeable, an elder or two may discreetly ask a mature sister if she is in a position to help a suffering sister in that way. Whether a victim or her family seeks qualified professional help, you see, they don't encourage it right here. And it's one line. Whether a victim or her family seeks qualified professional help is a personal decision. If an elder is asked for advice on this matter, he may direct attention to appropriate Bible principles and material in our publications. So it's all about going out in service. It's all about prayer. And they'll send another unqualified sister over there who maybe has the time, maybe she's a little older, but it doesn't mean she's qualified. And then what about her? Why should she carry all that emotional baggage home to her family? You see, this is garbage. These people need professional help. They were abused, and there is nothing in this organization to help victims. It's right here. It's in the Elders book. This is how they train them, folks. I always wondered about it, but now I know it's in the Elders book. This is another serious part of this organization, I think, where it's going to fail in this new elders book. They're leaving it all up to the elders again to do the investigation of the allegations. You know, if there's allegations of child sex abuse, straight to the police. This is a crime. If the Kingdom Hall's broken into, nearest person phones the police. It's a crime. If a bomb explodes at the assembly hall, the police are called. These are crimes. Well, these are crimes, but they leave the investigation up to a bunch of elders. So 2 elders, they may learn of child sex abuse directly from a victim or through the parents or through a trusted victim or whatever. And after receiving assistance from the branch, the office, if he's accused, is a publisher in the congregation. There's a whole bunch of rules. So now you go down here, the judicial committee, if the body of elders concludes that there's sufficient scriptural evidence to warrant a formation of a judicial committee on the grounds of child sex abuse, if the coordinator or the body of elders should first contact the circuit overseer. You see, these guys have it's not like it's a crime, a break-in or a shooting or anything. No, this is put off on the back burner. It's all ifs, ands, and buts. Well, if it is, let's investigate this. Is there any witnesses? You know how it goes. This organization is setting themselves up for more failure by having the elders investigate these allegations. It should go right to the police. It's a crime. Call the police. Don't pass go. Call the police. That's my 2 bits. Okay, folks, well, that brings an end to our program. I think we really covered the Secret Elders book quite a bit. When it talks about no blood for children, they're really clear about that. And we've seen how they go to many levels to coerce the parents, all these meetings, all these service bulletins, all these little cards they have to fill out for their children and get witnessed. And then all the details they go into, the hospital liaison committee, all of this stuff. It is clear that this is interfering with his child's growth. These children, life is taken away. They might decide not to be a Jehovah's Witness when they leave home. So on this side of the fence, this is serious business. This is child abuse. And the law calls it abetting in suicide. That's what this is. It's getting in the way of normal life for people. So why does this religion do it? Well, I was in it, and it's easy to become under a trance. I call it a spell, a trance, whatever you want to call it, but they get you under this thing that they have the truth and that their governing body members are the funnel from God. And if you believe that, it's amazing how the mind allows you to make bad decisions. To make decisions that could cost the lives of your children, your loved ones, and yourself. And that's what this is. It's a trance. So to end the program today, I thought we would do it on rather a humorous note. We're going to go back to this video we played on a couple of our videos back. We started playing the what goes on in a hospital room. This is a video that was put out by WatchtowerHelper. And we'll put a link to the video below. But we're going to start right in the middle here. So if you haven't seen the beginning, you can check the link out and watch the whole movie. But it was an ex-member that left Watchtower Bethel, was working in Bethel. And he came out, and for the last 15 or so years has put together all this information to help many of us on the outside. So now this is the last part of it, and this is an illustration of where Anthony Morris, one of the governing body members, were in the hospital, and now he dies, and this is what happens next. And he highlights at the end there with Jesus talking about some of these children that lost their lives, and that was the one is right here in Edmonton. And it's right here back when I was a Jehovah's Witness, and they made a big deal about it. They had the assembly program, and they exonerated this young guy for refusing blood and made him a hero, and he died. And his father, we played the video on some of our other former broadcasts, but his father was just broken up because he left the religion over it, and it's quite the story. But it is mentioned here. So we're going to carry on and let you guys enjoy this, and here we go.
Should show you that when it comes to saving a life, There is no violation.
Name?
Anthony Morris III. Don't you recognize me? I'm a member of the governing body.
Governing. What? Body.
You must be joking. The Jehovah's Witnesses, of course.
The Jehovah's. What? Oh, never mind, here you are. No, this isn't right. You're not supposed to be here for a few years yet. What happened?
Evidently, I was in a car accident. I think I drove into a tree or something.
I see. It seems you may have had a bit too much to drink. The record isn't clear on that. But, according to this, you were supposed to survive that incident.
Well, I probably would have, if I had violated my faith and accepted a blood transfusion.
Okay. Head that way. All early arrivals have to see the boss.
Hi there, Jesus. It's Anthony. I'm ready to be in heaven. Just give me a horse and a sword and we can get this Armageddon thing going. Can't wait to smell those human hot dogs, Len.
Tony, my son, I'm afraid we can't let you in. You've got blood on your hands.
What? Whose blood? I tell you I'm innocent of the blood of all men.
Do you remember Joshua Walker?
Oh sure, that little fella. He stuck to his guns, just like me, and refused blood. I paid tribute to his faith at a convention in 2016.
And he died, long before his time. We had big plans for him. What about Dennis Lindbergh?
I don't remember him.
He was a 14-year-old who died refusing blood back in 2007. I could give you thousands of such names, but you probably wouldn't even recognize them.
We just told people about God's law concerning blood. The rest was their personal decision.
Children aren't capable of making such life and death decisions based on your convoluted reasoning. You and your cohorts are blood guilty. You used your undue influence to coerce children, and their parents, into giving up their lives.
Well, should we have told them to disobey God's law? Saving their lives just to lose their everlasting lives?
Don't you remember my telling the Pharisees, I want mercy, and not sacrifice? You were just like them, always making more rules about ever smaller minutiae. But missing the spirit of things. Imagine issuing edicts about what fractions of blood are acceptable. When did I ever mention blood fractions? Where is it in any page of your enormous Bible? I said that my load was kindly and light. I taught about forgiveness and love. I said the entire law could be summed up by love. There is nothing loving in forcing a parent to withhold life-saving medical care from their child. Love trumps laws, even what you imagine to be God's laws. But you didn't understand that. You presumed to tell your followers that God wanted sacrifice, not mercy. I said that nothing that enters a person can defile him. Didn't you realize that this includes blood? Only what comes out of a person can defile him. Words that lead to death, such as the words in the Watchtower demanding the sacrifice of children's lives on your altar of blood. These words have defiled you, and made you unfit to be in my sight any longer.
Wait! I demand to see your supervisor. Take me to Jehovah to plead my case.
Who? Oh, yeah, you're that group that still believes in the war god of the ancient Israelites and Canaanites.
You were a Jew. You also believed in Jehovah, didn't you?
No. Why do you think I never mentioned him? Yahweh was a cruel, angry, vengeful God, whom I wanted nothing to do with. I tried to turn men's thoughts to a loving, heavenly Father figure, whom they could emulate. You emulated Jehovah. No wonder you're eager to fight a war.
Oh, geez.
What?
Sorry. I mean, well, what happens now? To me?
Well, there's one thing you guys got right. Death is the absence of life, and nothing survives it. In a moment you will cease to exist.
Well, folks, that sums up the discussion for today. I think Frank at Watchtower Helper Club did a really good job with that video. You can see the rest of it on his site. I'll put a link to it in the descriptions of this video. So when we think of secret elder book, no blood for children, it's ludicrous, it's abuse. And Japan is going full hilt on this right now. Their lawyers are hitting this. And I think all over the world, we have to all raise our voices about this. This is such a serious matter, this loss of life. Okay, folks, well, that brings an end, and thank you again. And remember, keep living your life with love. Bye for now. Oh, hello. My name is Vern. Join the channel. We cover JW World News, and we give you the rest of the story. Today, we're going to the Watchtower, and we have lives on Tuesday nights and Saturdays, and an excellent community. So join the channel and watch as we crash into the Watchtower. Here it is. I see it coming. Woo! Join us as we report in on the Watchtower.